The history of rock and roll. The roots, 1920s to 1940s. Before rock and roll officially emerged, its foundations were laid in the musical styles that came before it. Blues. Originating from African American communities in the Deep South, the blues featured expressive lyrics and the 12-bar chord progression that became a rock staple. Artists like Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters shaped its sound. Country and western, white rural musicians in the South and Appalachia mixed folk, gospel, and dance tunes. Figures like Hank Williams contributed storytelling and rhythm. Rhythm and blues, R&B. In the 1940s, artists such as Louis Jordan, Big Joe Turner, and Ruth Brown combined blues, swing, and gospel into danceable, upbeat songs, direct precursors to rock and roll. The birth of rock and roll, 1950s. The term rock and roll was popularized by DJ Alan Freed, who used it to describe a new kind of energetic, youthful R&B. Key artists, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Fats Domino, and Bo Diddley brought electric guitars, driving beats, and rebellious lyrics to the forefront. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, fused country and R&B, bringing the style to mainstream white audiences with hits like Hound Dog and Heartbreak Hotel. Buddy Holly and Jerry Lee Lewis also helped define the genre's early sound, fast, catchy, and rebellious. The British invasion and 1960s expansion. By the early 1960s, rock had gone global. The Beatles revolutionized popular music with their songwriting, harmonies, and studio innovation. The Rolling Stones, The Who, and The Kinks brought a harder, bluesier sound, inspiring garage rock and punk later on. In the US, the Beach Boys pioneered surf rock, and Bob Dylan merged rock with folk, adding political and poetic depth. Late in the decade, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and The Doors embodied the psychedelic rock movement, using distortion, improvisation, and countercultural themes. The 1970s, rock diversifies. The 1970s saw rock branching into many subgenres. Hard rock and heavy metal, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and Deep Purple pushed loud guitars and darker tones. Progressive rock, Pink Floyd, Yes, and Genesis created long, complex compositions with experimental sounds. Glam rock, David Bowie and T-Rex added theatrical flair and androgyny. Punk rock, a reaction against the excess of mainstream rock, punk, led by the Ramones, the Sex Pistols, and the Clash, brought raw energy and rebellion back. Southern rock and singer-songwriters, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, and Bruce Springsteen offered more storytelling and Americana influences. The 1980s, MTV and stadium rock. The launch of MTV in 1981 transformed rock into a visual medium. Arena rock, bands like Journey, Bon Jovi, and Def Leppard filled stadiums with anthemic songs. New wave, groups like The Police, Talking Heads, and Blondie combined punk energy with pop sensibilities and synthesizers. Heavy metal's rise, Metallica, Iron Maiden, and Motorhead made metal faster and more aggressive. Alternative beginnings, underground acts like REM and The Cure laid the groundwork for indie and alt rock. The 1990s, grunge and alternative rock. Rock reinvented itself again in the 90s. Grunge, bands from Seattle, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, blended punk and metal with angst-filled lyrics. Alternative rock, Radiohead, Smashing Pumpkins, and Red Hot Chili Peppers offered artistic experimentation and emotional depth. Pop punk and Britpop, Green Day, Blink-182, Oasis, and Blur brought catchy hooks and attitude to the mainstream. The 2000s present, evolution and legacy. Rock splintered further but continued to influence global music. Indie rock revival, bands like The Strokes, Arctic Monkeys, and the White Stripes returned to raw, guitar-driven sounds. Post-rock and experimental, Muse, Radiohead, and Arcade Fire expanded rock's sonic boundaries. Modern trends, while pop, hip-hop, and electronic music dominate charts, rock remains vibrant in festivals and subcultures, with artists like Foo Fighters, Imagine Dragons, and Paramore carrying the torch. Rock's enduring influence. Even as it evolves, rock and roll continues to symbolize freedom, rebellion, and creativity. Its rhythms and riffs shaped nearly every major popular genre that followed, from pop to hip-hop, and its legacy lives on in the spirit of every musician who picks up a guitar to say something true.